Homage to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. We respectfully greet the abbot of Dida Pagoda. To the venerable masters here, many of whom are likely abbots of nearby temples. And to the abbot of Van Phong Pagoda, or is it Van Non? I'm not entirely sure of its true name. The abbot of Dida is a master of classical Chinese, so no one can fool him. He is a man of immense learning, skilled in numerology and martial arts, a true scholar and warrior. Dear Buddhist friends, I am here today at the invitation of Abbot Tien Jiak. The topic for this talk was chosen by the abbot himself. He insisted that I speak on this specific theme. Who am I? And when he proposed it, I realized at once that this is a man of great wisdom. Truly, only a person of wisdom would raise such a question. Indeed, from the moment we are born, we grow up and live in this world, passing through countless ups and downs, joys and sorrows. But has any of us ever truly stopped to look at ourselves and ask who we are? Does anyone here know who they are? If you ask yourself that question, the answer might startle you. Are you your name? For instance, are you Nguyen Thi Lan, Tran Thi Dep, which means beautiful, or Lu Thi Zaw, which means ugly? Are you that name? No, a name is just a label, one that can be legally changed at any time. Well then, are you this physical body? No, this body will inevitably grow old, fall sick, and die. So what are you? Are you the thoughts swirling in your mind? Those thoughts are formless and shapeless, changing from one moment to the next. And so, there comes a moment when we are startled into realizing we don't know who we are. Anyone who has had that experience, waking in the dead of night, looking at themselves and not knowing who they are, that person is beginning to awaken to wisdom. They have started to feel a profound unease, a spiritual restlessness to find the truth of this life. But if you have never woken in the middle of the night, tormented by this question, if you just let life sweep you along, toiling, competing, and struggling for your next meal and the clothes on your back, if you drift between fleeting laughter and bitter tears, lost in the darkness of samsara, the endless cycle of birth and death, you will never escape. You will simply be carried away, living an ordinary, unexamined life. Day after day, you bend your back to work. Night after night, you are consumed by worries. The years fly by until one day you are old, weak, sick, and you die only to be swept back into the cycle of suffering over and over again. But for the person who suddenly awakens in the night and asks, who am I? Why am I here in this world? And when this life is over, where will I go? That person is truly wise. They are beginning to look toward a different kind of existence, to discover a new horizon, to open themselves to a new wisdom. Not just anyone can ask this question. Who am I? So, have we found the answer yet? Not yet, just from this brief discussion. But have we even begun to ask the question? Have we? Let's start now. Who am I? Who is the person sitting next to me? How are we different? How are we the same? Is it possible that I and everyone else are, in fact, one? Or are we destined to be forever separate, unable to truly connect? We must ask these questions. We appear in this world, drift through the current of life, brushing shoulders with others. But do we remain forever separate? Today, in this remote and humble temple, tucked away in a corner of Bac Ninh province, we gather. The temple has a beautiful name. Master Dida noted that its name, Van Non, means the beautiful shore, but the gate says Van Phong, which might mean beautiful style or a beautiful wind. Here, in this place, let us all pause and ask ourselves, who am I? Let us begin to part the clouds of ignorance, see the truth, and find a new path out of this endless, repetitive cycle of samsara. We must escape this suffering and find our way to the shore of enlightenment. We can no longer accept not knowing who we are, allowing life to simply sweep us along in a current of hardship, worry, and struggle. As we are swept along, we sometimes perform good deeds and accumulate merit, and other times we commit negative acts and accumulate sin. If our merit is greater, our next life will be more fortunate. If our sins are greater, we will fall into the lower realms of existence. perhaps as an animal, a hungry ghost, or a being in hell. So there must come a moment of awakening, when we stop and ask, "Who am I?" so that we can understand how we ought to live. Once you understand who you are, you will automatically know how you must live to transform yourself. You will no longer stumble blindly through life, letting the current carry you. You will become the master of your own destiny. Until now, we have not been our own masters. The harsh, unseen current of life has tossed us about like a log in a flood. We are pushed and pulled by the whirlpool of fate, sometimes washing up on the shore, sometimes getting tangled in the weeds, only to be pulled back into the current and dissolve into the vast ocean. But today, we refuse to accept that fate. We will take control. We will set a new course. We will no longer drift toward the sea of suffering. We must rise up, take flight, and escape to live a better, more virtuous, more peaceful, and more sacred life. The destination we seek is not the dark mouth of the ocean of birth and death, but the boundless sky above. This is what we are here to discuss today. So, who am I? According to the Buddha, the first answer is this: we are an ignorant sentient being. Is this wrong? No. This is what the Buddha taught. All of us are beings living in a state of ignorance. Ignorant means we do not see. We do not know. What is it that we don't see? To end this ignorance completely, one must attain the way and realize the state of an arhat, a fully enlightened being. Anyone short of that is still considered ignorant. We don't see the ultimate truth. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know who we were in our past lives. We are unaware of the countless hidden defilements lurking in our minds. We cannot distinguish the good people from the bad people around us, nor can we discern their true intentions. We have no idea where this life is heading. There are so many things we simply do not know. And if, in this state of not knowing, we live only by instinct and habit, we are bound to make mistakes. We will scold and curse others, compete and struggle for dominance, and what is the result? Our minds grow darker, our karma grows heavier, and our next life will surely be in a lower realm of suffering. Therefore, the most important first step is to recognize this: I am an ignorant being. This is the first knowing. The person who realizes this has found the beginning of the path. Because until now, you thought you were clever, and so you kept making mistakes. The moment you recognize your own foolishness is the beginning of true wisdom. Remember this: it is the logic of cause and effect. The one who knows their own faults has opened the door to wisdom. The one who insists they are clever is, in reality, profoundly foolish. The Buddha calls this state of foolishness ignorance. So, we must first inscribe this truth in our hearts every hour of every day. We are an ignorant sentient being. The things we think we know, the petty arguments, the trivial competitions, are nothing more than dust. The true knowledge, the kind that shatters the mind and elevates one to the level of a saint, remains completely unknown to us. That is what it means to be free from ignorance. And we are not there yet. The second answer to who am I is that within us lies a heavy attachment to the self. What is this attachment? It is the belief in a separate, real, and important I. We all have it. And because of this illusory I, we have created countless sins. For example, if someone calls out your name and scolds you, you get angry because your I has been attacked. If you're walking down a narrow path and someone bumps you, you get angry because your I has been violated. If you express an opinion and someone dismisses it, you get angry because your I feels diminished. Because this I is so important to us, we compete, we grasp, we become greedy, and we struggle endlessly. The ego is the source of so much suffering. Even for those on the spiritual path, the ego can grow stronger. The more they learn, the more they may feel superior to others, and this very ego binds them, pulling them back into delusion. The more we accomplish, the higher our degree, the bigger our house, the more powerful our position, the more our ego inflates with a sense of superiority. This I, this arrogance, is the source of our anger, greed, and self-pity. It is the root of countless heavy burdens on the human soul. So, to the question, who am I? We can now offer a few answers. First, we are a being lost in ignorance. Second, we are a being filled with delusion and attachment to an illusory self. Third, who are we? We are a soul where merit and sin are all mixed up, where good and evil are not yet clearly defined. All of us sitting here are the same. Within us is a mixture of good and bad karma. Those who have followed the path for a long time may have gradually moved away from sin and toward merit. They are aspiring upward. But many of us are just beginners, bewildered, unsure of what is a good deed and what is a sin. We act on impulse and habit. Sometimes, by habit, we do a good deed without knowing it. Other times, by habit, we do a harmful act, also without knowing it. We are pitiful souls, living in a twilight of half darkness and half light. And ultimately, who are we? The truth is, we are no one at all. You may not understand this yet, but if you listen a little longer, you will begin to see. The person who can truly realize, I am no one at all, has begun to set foot on the land of the Buddhas. As long as you still see yourself as an important, separate person, you are standing outside the Buddha's realm, no matter how many times you chant his name or how many times you bow. Yet, in our dark souls, we have one great fortune. We are here. We have followed the venerable masters to this temple. This proves we are people who aspire to something higher. We have faith that within these walls, we can find something noble and good. We believe the masters and nuns here can teach us the truths that will illuminate our minds and prevent us from making the same mistakes when we go home. It is this faith that brings us together today. Therefore, although we are ignorant and our minds are dark, a thirst for a higher life has already awakened within us. At this very moment, countless others are lost in the struggles of life, their hearts filled with competition and sin. But we have come to this remote village, to this quiet temple, to sit together and listen to the Dharma. We refuse to remain ordinary, lowly, and lost. We believe that here, under this temple roof, there is a path that can lead us beyond our ordinary fate to the shore of enlightenment. So who are we? We are an ignorant being attached to an ego, but we are also a seeker, thirsty for the truth. This is our greatest hope. Without this spiritual thirst, we are no different from animals, living by instinct, fighting and struggling until this life ends, only to perhaps fall even lower, to be reborn as a dog or a buffalo. But because we are here, we have a deep yearning for a better way. We believe that, in the light of the Buddha's teachings, we can find the truth and transform ourselves. If we ask, who am I? We can also look to the past. Some practitioners say, I know who I am, meaning they have seen their past lives, either through deep meditation or in prophetic dreams. In truth, each of us here has a history. Some have come from higher celestial realms. Though they are human now, their previous life was as a celestial being, and they have come to the human realm to settle a karmic debt or to build more merit. The human realm is a place for practice. Those who come from higher realms often share certain traits. First, they are often quite beautiful in appearance, like the abbot of Dīda Pagoda. Second, their minds are naturally drawn to wisdom and profound philosophy, not to petty, worldly concerns like food and sensual pleasure. They have an innate desire to practice. If you find this in yourself, you may have roots in a higher realm. Our venerable masters and nuns are often such people. In the prime of their lives, they renounced worldly pleasures to follow the path and become a spiritual refuge for countless others. Let us applaud them. Many lay followers, too, are from these higher realms. You can often tell by their dignified appearance. You can all take out your mirrors and check for yourselves now. In their relationships, they naturally connect with other noble-minded people. They may hold high positions in society, or they may be ordinary people, but even then, they command respect as a teacher, a doctor, or a community leader. Most importantly, their souls yearn for the sacred and the profound. They feel a constant pull from their former home, a spiritual restlessness that drives them to build merit in this life so they may return. Then there are those who have come up from the lower realms, for instance, from the animal world. After paying off their karmic debt through lifetimes as a dog or a buffalo, they are reborn as human, but they carry the imprints of their past lives. What are these imprints? First, their minds are often not sharp and they struggle to learn. Their thoughts tend to be dark and petty, and they may have a strong tendency toward promiscuity and other base instincts. The traces of the animal are still there, in their soul and sometimes even on their body. But now we are all here together in the human realm, a place where ordinary beings and saints coexist. And as we enter this temple, which we can consider the Buddha's realm, we are all equal. The beauty of Buddhism is its teaching on equality, which transcends the karmic differences that divide people in the world. Worldly people cling to status. They revere the rich and powerful and look down on the poor and lowly. This is the ordinary mind trapped by karma. But the Buddha's teaching calls us to transcend karma and treat everyone with the virtue of equality. This is why, when one ordains as a Buddhist monastic, the first thing they do is shave their head. This tradition began in ancient India, a society rigidly divided into castes. Each caste had a unique hairstyle that acted like a uniform. A Brahmin priest, a Kshatriya warrior, a merchant, you could tell their station just by looking at their hair. But when they came to the Buddha, he had them shave it all off. Inside the Sangha, the monastic community, all traces of caste and background were erased. Why? Because the virtue of Buddhism is the virtue of anatman, or non-self. Only those who have purified their minds and realized the way can see themselves as no different from others, with no desire to compete or feel superior. This is the heart of Buddhism. When you attain non-self, you see yourself in everyone. There is a famous story about the Zen master Nanquan. He was a great master but very strict. One day, the monks in the east and west halls of his monastery were arguing over a cat. Each group claimed the cat belonged to them because they were the ones who fed and petted it. Of course, a cat belongs to no one. It goes wherever there are mice to hunt or scraps to eat. But the monks were arguing fiercely. In that moment of argument, were their minds deluded or enlightened? They were completely deluded. Master Nanquan walked up, seized the cat, and held up a knife. "Say a true word of Zen," he demanded. "If you can, I will spare the cat. If you cannot, I will kill it." He was pushing the responsibility onto them, forcing them into an extreme spiritual crisis. But the monks were speechless. They were still practicing in delusion and had not yet had a taste of enlightenment. Seeing their failure, Nanquan killed the cat and walked away. A Zen master had killed a living being. But he placed the karmic weight on his students. "Because you could not speak a single word of truth," he implied. "The cat had to die. The fault is yours, for your practice is shallow and your minds are not awake." Later that day, Nanquan's foremost disciple, Zhaozhou, returned from an errand. Zhaozhou was an enlightened master. Nanquan told him the story and asked, "If you had been there, what would you have said to save the cat?" Zhaozhou said nothing. He simply took off his sandals, placed them on top of his head, and walked out of the room. Nanquan nodded in approval. "If you had been here this morning," he said, "the cat would have been saved." What does this mean? To understand Zhaozhou's action, one must practice until the ego has become very thin, until one sees that there is no fundamental difference between oneself and others. This seeing is not a philosophical idea. It transforms into a living virtue, the virtue of equality. A master who is bowed to by his followers does not feel superior. In his heart, he knows they are the same. He is humble and gentle. He treats the rich and the poor with the exact same consideration, not out of a sense of duty, but because in his heart he truly sees no difference. This is the state of a purified mind, where the ego is light. A wise master can still see the karmic differences between people. This one is beautiful, that one is ugly. This one has much merit, that one has little. He sees it all clearly, but he doesn't cling to the differences. That is the wisdom. We, on the other hand, see differences and immediately cling. My family is nobler. I am richer. My car is better. We discriminate and we attach. A master can ride in a luxury car or a cheap one. It makes no difference to him. If the car breaks down, he waits calmly. If he needs to walk, he walks. His heart is serene. So, it no longer matters if you came from a higher realm or a lower one. If you don't practice the way right here and now, you will continue to drift in the cycles of suffering. The past is irrelevant. The only question that matters is this: have I found the path of truth? Do I know who I am? Your origin doesn't matter. A person from a celestial realm can become arrogant, lose all their merit, and fall into a lower rebirth. A person from an animal realm, say a former temple dog who was reborn human because of its connection to the Dharma, can, through diligent practice and guidance, gradually overcome their ignorance and ascend. Therefore, the only true measure of superiority is one's progress on the path. How much of the truth do you understand? How deep is your practice? That is all that matters. And here is a paradox. In the world, the more someone has, the more arrogant they become. In the Dharma, it is the opposite. The more advanced a person is in their practice, the more humble and gentle they become. This is why a young, inexperienced monk, whose ego is still strong, might be difficult to be around, while a wise, elderly abbot, whose ego has all but disappeared, radiates a warmth, compassion, and peace that puts everyone at ease. The deeper the practice, the kinder the person. So, our only competition is in our understanding and practice of the way. But how do we find the true way? We are separated from the time of the Buddha by thousands of years. His teachings have been interpreted and reinterpreted by countless masters and schools. What we have today is an indirect teaching. Therefore, as students, we must be discerning. Never listen to a teacher and believe them blindly. No matter how eloquent or famous they are, their words have passed through a 2,500-year filter. It is not the direct word of the Buddha. The person who reads a sacred text or listens to a Dharma talk and retains a healthy sense of inquiry is wise. The person who believes everything instantly lacks wisdom, for they have forgotten the vast distance in time. So, you might ask, if I must doubt everyone, who can I trust? How can I practice without faith? This is a fair question. To practice diligently, you must have great faith in a teacher and a teaching. So where do you find a teaching you can trust completely? As a joke, I could give you the address of Buddhist Zen monastery in Thuong Tin, Ha Te. No, truly, we must start by doubting everything so that we can find what is authentic. Don't be swayed by someone's reputation. A famous teacher from a foreign country is still 500 years removed from the Buddha. A master with a high position is still 2,500 years removed. A handsome young teacher is still 2,500 years removed. To know if a teaching is authentic, look for these three things. Does it inspire absolute reverence for the Buddha? Any teaching, even a single word, that diminishes your respect for the Buddha is a poisonous, destructive, and wrong view. If someone tells you to worship one Buddha but not another, they are using the Dharma to destroy the Dharma. All Buddhas are one. The first and most essential foundation is reverence for the Buddha. Without it, the door to wisdom remains closed, no matter how clever the teachings sound. Is it based on the law of cause and effect, karma? The true path is always grounded in karma. A false path will always try to avoid it. If your business is failing and a master gives you a magic charm for good luck, that is a false path because it ignores cause and effect. But if a master tells you, your merit has run out, you have been focused on business but have neglected to practice and do good deeds. Go now and cultivate merit and repent. That is the true path. It aligns with the law of karma. What if the master performs a ritual to help you through a hard time, but then instructs you, if this helps, you must perform a great meritorious act to repay the debt? This is also the true path. Why? Because it involves merit and compensation. When you came to him, your merit was exhausted. Using the power of his own practice, he is essentially asking the Buddhas to grant you a loan of merit. He is your guarantor, but he makes it clear you must repay this loan by doing a good deed, like building a temple, helping the poor, or saving lives. The merit from that future deed is used to pay back the karmic loan. While it might look like a ritual, it is grounded in the law of cause and effect. The false teacher, on the other hand, will just give you a charm and demand your devotion, without ever mentioning the need for you to cultivate your own merit. Does it teach the path to non-self, ātman? Non-self is the core of the Buddha's teaching. When the Buddha was a seeker, he left many powerful teachers because they could not teach him the way to realize non-self. Any teaching that inflates your ego and makes you feel proud or special is a false path. If a teacher tells you, "My path is the highest Mahayana. One day of practice with me is worth 1,000,000 lifetimes elsewhere. You are special," that teacher is wrong. He is feeding your ego. But if you meet a teacher who, upon first meeting you, says, "Your spiritual capacity is very dull," be careful. That may be a true teacher. He is forcing you to look at yourself honestly and humble your ego. The true path always leads to humility. So, it doesn't matter what that teacher's specialty is, Zen, Pure Land, Tantra. It doesn't matter if they are old or young, male or female, from this country or another. Just ask these 3 questions. If a teacher's message is built solidly on these 3 pillars, reverence for the Buddha, the law of karma, and the path to non-self, then you can follow them with confidence. Even 2,500 years later, they are speaking with the voice of the Buddha, and they will only lead you upward. Now, let's return to our question. Who are we? Imagine a beginner who says, "Reverend, after listening to you, I know that I am a deluded being who clings to an ego." That is a very good and correct answer. Now imagine that same person after practicing with a true teacher for 10 years. If you ask them again, "Who are you?" what will they say? Will they say, "Reverend, after 10 years, my mind is pure. I understand many teachings, and I have done many good deeds. I have become a rather advanced practitioner." Is this correct? No. You here are too smart to fall into my trap. Here is the truth. After 10 years of devoted practice, revering the Buddha, doing good deeds, and always seeking to realize non-self, if the master asks, "Do you know who you are now?" the student will kneel, bow, and say, "Reverend, when I first came here, you taught me I was an ignorant, ego-clinging being, and I believed you. But after practicing with you for 10 years, I now realize that those words are not enough. In truth, I am 1,000,000 times more ignorant, 1,000,000 times more attached to my ego, 1,000,000 times more deluded and mistaken than I ever imagined. Before, I only believed I was ignorant. Now, thanks to my practice, I know the true depth of my foolishness, my pettiness, my agitation, and my defilements. That is the correct answer. Have you seen this in yourselves? Have you seen the millions of layers of your own ignorance? Or do you think after 10 years of practice, you're pretty good? This is a profound truth. When you first approach the Dharma, you hear you are ignorant and you accept it intellectually. But it is only after many years of sincere practice that you begin to truly understand what ignorance, greed, and hatred really are. You see the selfishness, the anger, the jealousy, the arrogance, all the hidden poisons in your heart you never saw before. And you are startled. You are horrified by your own mind. My God, you think, "I am so deeply selfish. I have never truly opened my hands to another. I have only ever cared for myself." At that point, if someone asks who you are, you might just say, "Reverend, I am a demon." In the beginning, you thought you were an ignorant being. After 10 or 20 years of practice, you bow your head, weep, and confess, "Reverend, I am a demon in disguise." Only then do you truly begin to see yourself. Before, you were self-satisfied, thinking you were a pretty good person, maybe even handsome like the abbot of Thuong Tin. But that was a fantasy. When you truly look at your own mind after years of practice, you are terrified by how ugly it is. And what happens when you look at others? You understand. You realize, everyone is just like me. You see your friends laughing and enjoying life, and you feel a deep compassion, because you know that hidden within their hearts, just like in yours, is a tangled mass of greed, hatred, pettiness, and pride. You feel compassion for yourself, for your family, for your neighbors, for all beings drowning in the sea of suffering. And at that moment, you can truly practice. You practice with an incredible urgency, hoping to find a flicker of light to save yourself and perhaps, one day, to help save others lost on this endless road. You can love everyone because you know everyone is suffering. So, after 10 or 20 years of practice, you see that you are a demon. This is the threshold of true spiritual practice. When you follow a master for years and years until one day you are startled into seeing this monstrous side of yourself, at that moment you have finally placed one foot inside the temple gate. But the person who practices for 20 years and says, "I'm doing great. My master trusts me with important duties in the temple. I'm a big shot now." That person is still a demon standing outside the temple gate. Is anyone here like that? The one who has truly entered the gate is the one who, when asked about their practice, says with genuine shame, "Venerable Sir, I have followed my master for 20 years, and I am still so incredibly ordinary and flawed." And this is not false modesty. It is a sincere, heartfelt confession. A wise teacher hears this and knows, this student has entered the temple. The one who enters the Buddha's realm is the one who knows with absolute certainty how little merit they have and how agitated their mind still is. That is the true first day of practice. The person who thinks they are progressing day by day is still standing outside. There was a Zen master named Wolin who wrote a poem to the sixth patriarch, Huaining, boasting of his attainment. "Facing the world, my mind does not arise. My enlightenment grows day by day." The sixth patriarch read it and wrote a poem in response. Huaining has no special skill. Facing the world, my mind constantly arises. How then can my enlightenment grow? For generations, people have been puzzled by this. The first master's attainment sounds very high. His mind is still and his wisdom is growing. Why did the patriarch, an enlightened being, say the opposite about himself? The patriarch was teaching him that by praising his own attainment, he was proving he was still outside the gate. Only when you see how truly flawed you are do you finally enter. What is the difference? It is the difference between an ordinary being and a saint. An ordinary person who experiences a moment of mental calm is thrilled. "My mind is so pure," they think. A saint looks at that same mind and sees that the calmness is just a thin surface, and underneath it lies a vast, turbulent ocean of hidden agitation. For instance, you might chant the Buddha's name and feel very peaceful and one-pointed. That is the ordinary view. A saint can look deeper and see the massive block of defilements still untouched behind that momentary peace. The one who practices until they can see that hidden block of agitation for themselves. That is the person who knows who they are. That is the person who has set foot inside the temple gate. So, when asked, "Who am I?" how should you reply? "Venerable Sir, I am just an ordinary, lowly, flawed human being who has understood almost nothing of the Buddha's teaching. And you must feel this with all your heart. The day you see the vast, hidden darkness inside you that you have not even begun to touch, that is the day you begin to have wisdom. As long as you think, I'm a good person, I practice diligently, I fulfill all my duties, you will forever remain outside the temple gate. The goal of Buddhism is to realize non-self. If you practice correctly, your ego will slowly become thinner, lighter, and more transparent. If you practice incorrectly, it will grow larger and more solid, and you will become unbearable to be around, causing suffering for yourself and others. What does it feel like to have a light ego? To get there, one must attain a degree of meditative concentration and live in a state of right mindfulness and clear comprehension. This state makes the mind feel empty, spacious, and bright. In that state, you constantly feel that you are nothing. The ego is not yet gone, but you have the persistent, clear feeling, I am nothing. I am no one. This feeling is with you always, when walking, standing, sitting, speaking, or in silence. And this inner feeling radiates outward as virtue. You find you can naturally love everyone. It's a strange thing, you don't try to love them. When the ego gets lighter, love just happens. And you always want to help. If there is something you can do for someone, you do it without hesitation. You never want to refuse someone in need. And third, you become naturally humble. You are happy to stand behind, to sit below, to honor others. This is how you live. And in your heart, every hour of every minute you feel, I am nothing. This feeling, I am nothing, is the first step of an enlightened mind. The idea of non-self becomes a constant presence. And when it radiates outward, it becomes the virtue of love, generosity, and humility. At that point, if someone asks you, what do you practice for? You will have no grand ambition, because you are nothing. You might answer, I practice just to become the earth. To become the earth? Don't you want to become a Buddha? No, Reverend. I don't dare to become a Buddha. I only wish to be a speck of dust on the path where the Buddha's feet have trod. I only wish to be the humble grass by the side of the road, forever watching the hem of his robe fly by. Just that. I sincerely wish for all the Venerable Sangha and all dear Buddhist friends that your body and mind may be at peace, that your commitment to the way remains firm, and that you may practice until you see who you are, that you are no one at all, so that you may love and be generous with all living beings. Homage to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha.